Alright fellas, now after the fight on Wednesday night and a few announcements, Inoue's next two fights are pretty much confirmed, and oh boy we need to talk about this. Inoue, the undisputed champ, has been on an all-time run. Pretty much his whole career he has only fought killers. He fights the best of the best or the best fight at the time to get him into the position he wants to. Yet, what are we faced with now? After becoming undisputed, Inoue wants a couple more fights, so after being the belt holders, where does he turn? With the first fight up being pretty much confirmed against former world champ TJ Doheny, and the second fight being against IBF and WBO mandatory Sam Goodman. The first fight, I don't mind as much, while the second, I can't believe we're even considering it. So, with so much to talk about, let's get right into it. First up, let's quickly talk about the TJ Doheny fight. Now, everyone has labelled this fight as a mismatch, and you are absolutely right. Although a former world champion, his best days are mostly behind him. Coming with a record of 26-4, he is ranked within the top 10 of all major belts, even coming in at number 2 with the WBO. After his bout with Goodman, it seemed like his career was over, until a few big wins in Japan, and a spot in the last Inoue undercard has propelled his career back to big opportunities. For Inoue, this fight makes sense. The guy is ranked like it or not. He's probably an easy fight and he's familiar while also popular with the Japanese audience. This fight is easy to make as there's no promotional differences, and he's more than happy to fight in Japan. I know a lot of people have been complaining about this fight and wanting that Akhmadaliev fight, which I want too, yet because of the promotional differences and similar rankings to these two, it's a lot less likely to happen. Just simply because of the fact it's a more complex fight to make. So I have nothing really wrong with this fight. My passion more comes towards the second fight, and not really because of Inoue's decision to take the fight. Goodman is the mandatory for 2 belts. My grievance, even as an Australian, comes from the position of how undeserving pretty much Goodman is, and even more so the entitlement. If you've never heard of Sam Goodman, I wouldn't be surprised. The Australian boxing scene is a closed ecosystem, and the main promotion No Limit, I'm pretty sure, has no other partner in any other country to broadcast fights or pay-per-views overseas. One of the rising names on these cards has been Sam Goodman. If you aren't from Australia, most likely the only time you've ever seen this bloke was the time he interrupted Inoue's moment of glory at the Tokyo Dome to demand a fight and to demand that Inoue gives up the belts if he wasn't gonna fight him.
September.
Look, I've been mandatory for over a year. Either give up the belts or fight me.
He then proceeded to apparently not only knock down a deal once, yet twice with Inoue, instead opting to have a warm-up fight. And this is the only reason we're even seeing the TJ Doheny fight next. So just before we talk about that warm-up fight, I just want to give some context around Goodman. His resume is basically filled with incredibly average talent and flown-in journeymen. He's only ever fought in Australia. The two most notable fights on his resume is Reis Salim and TJ Doheny. Now, with the Doheny fight, it was a decent test. TJ, although was coming off 2 wins out of his last 5 fights, it was a decent performance, yet TJ, he wasn't at his best. While Reis Salim on paper looked good at 20-0, most of his fights were once again against average sort of opponents, and really coming to Australia to fight Goodman, he probably knew in Goodman's backyard he's gonna have it tough. And Goodman did edge him out in a decision. So when Goodman came to the Tokyo Dome, he was fresh off his last fight against Mark Shalibs. So if you're going to challenge arguably the best boxer in the world, you'd be coming off a good fight, right? Nope, he was coming off BoxRec's 219th ranked bantamweight, and of course he won by TKO. 219th in the world to Inoue is only a fair jump, right? Think about it, this bloke is the mandatory for 2 belts, and is fighting the 219th in the world, and then challenging Inoue? Insane. So after he went to the Tokyo Dome, Inoue offered him the fight, and he said, nah, I'm gonna take a warm-up. His team scrambled and found this bloke, who I think was ranked in the top 10 in some belt organization somehow. He really needs this warm-up fight to get him ready for the best boxer in the world, and they go and find a no-name who most likely won't prepare him at all. I think most of my frustration ahead of this warm-up fight came more or less around the press surrounding it. Now, No Limit has done a fantastic job with other fighters. Look at Tim Tszyu, the bloke hasn't really ducked a challenge at all. Neither has Liam Wilson, who is under the same banner. And the biggest thing I don't think neither of those fighters have shown is the level of entitlement that Goodman has. For even more context, I would say Goodman is not even close to being a household name within Australia. Boxing isn't as big as it used to be, and I think Tim Tszyu and Kambosos have been the biggest names in recent years, and for even them, it's debatable whether they're household names. Goodman isn't really known for his boxing. The only thing he is vaguely known for is being from a small town called Wollongong and having a fan group named the Mad Bunch, which is mainly just a bunch of his family and drunk friends. So leading up to this warm-up fight, No Limit and Goodman have kept insisting they are going to bring the Inoue fight to Wollongong. Simply put, what a joke. They were saying that Top Rank was supportive of the idea of Inoue ditching the 50,000 strong crowds in Tokyo for the 1 to 5,000 capacity Wollongong Entertainment Centre, claiming it as one of Australia's biggest boxing towns, yet its only other decent fight it has ever hosted was between ex-rugby player Paul Gallen and Lucas Brown. Then last Wednesday, the warm-up fight happened. Goodman did win, yes, but it wasn't pretty. Warrawood took him all 12 rounds challenging the Australian. Goodman did struggle against the fighter who had never fought outside of Thailand before, even having to resort to basically headbutting across multiple rounds, pushing with his head under Warrawood's chin in close range and pushing him to the ropes multiple times. For all the talk Goodman has been doing, it wasn't a good showing. I would have scored it 116-112, yet in watching the fight it's crazy to see Goodman gasping for breath at the end of each round, while Warrawood was up dancing in the corner even until the final round. In this dismal showing, Goodman also apparently broke his hand, which is no joke if true, yet it could be an excuse to pull Goodman out of the potential Inoue fight. Now, of course, Goodman has to believe he has a chance to beat Inoue, and should be saying he thinks he does. Yet, obviously, he's probably been gassed up by the people around him, thinking he's the best thing since sliced bread and doesn't need to be overly humble. I don't think he's a bad bloke in the slightest, yet taking a more humble approach, especially with a record which has been obviously cherry-picked, would help him win more fans on his side. Even with this warm-up card, in his hometown they had to tack on a fight to sell this card with an ex-rugby star, which I couldn't believe my own eyes when I saw him fighting. They tried to label him as a bad boy, but really he's just a bloke with a pretty putrid history who shouldn't be even having a chance in the ring. So next for Inoue, of course, we were meant to have that Goodman fight, but he denied the chance. Instead, we will see him against Goodman in November or December, while in the meanwhile, we will most likely see him against TJ in September. To summarize, Doheny was a fight which could be made easily and doesn't seem like their first option, so to me, it gets a pass. While the Goodman fight seems like a waste of time, where in my opinion they could use those extra few months to get the Akhmadaliev fight over the line. Now, I want to hear, have you heard of Sam Goodman before? Did you watch last week's fight, and what do you think will happen in these suggested matchups? Anyways, thanks for watching, I really appreciate it, and I'll catch you in the next one.